morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we need to be taking a look at Ninetales V. Ninetales, we like Ninetales. Ninetales is a very, very popular Pokemon. One of probably the more popular Pokemon, and it's gone and got a V, and that V looks pretty good. And we need to give a shout out to the lovely Antoine Boulet at the beginning of this video. Firstly, for providing the translation. Secondly, not only providing a translation, but also getting in touch with Pokemon customer service over in Japan about a particular ruling, and then tagging me in a post on Twitter to make sure I know about it. When I keep saying how lovely Antoine is, I'm not just saying that because I'm taking translations. No. One of the loveliest people that we know in the community. I mean that sincerely. Also, fun little side note here, Ninetales never actually got a GX, though Alolan Ninetales got two very different ones. I suppose they were probably celebrating the whole Sun and Moon thing. So Ninetales V then, what can we say about it? Well, starting off then, having a little bit of a look at the basics, we've got 200 HP, which isn't great for a Pokemon V, but it's not terrible. Retreat cost of 2 isn't ideal, but we can cover it with Air Balloon, so it's not the end of the world. Weakness to water is expected, and it really comes down to how big Frostmoth decks end up being. If Frostmoth is a great Pokemon, this becomes a terrible weakness. Otherwise, you're doing alright. At the Oceania International Championships, Frostmoth was not huge, so maybe we're kind of getting away with it. As for being a fire Pokemon, you got Welder. It's all you really need at the moment. It's nice to hit weakness on metal decks like Lucario and Melmetal, or, you know, Zacian and V, though do watch out for Metal Frying Pan taking away their weakness. It's nice to be hitting weakness on grass Pokemon like Rillaboom, but really, it's all about the Welder here. Welder's what makes this amazing. Welder lets you attach 2 fire energy from your hand to the Pokemon and then draw 3 cards. And then you've got a million different ways to go and get the fire energy, like Fire, Crystal, Giant Half, etc. Cool. Now, the first attack here, we can do a lot with this first attack. 1 fire, 2 colourless energy, and according to the lovely Antoine Boulet, you choose one of the defending Pokemon's attacks and use it as this attack. Now, remember the rule, and we've talked about this a few times lately. The rule is very simple. If it specifically says you must have the right energy, you need the right energy. If it doesn't, you don't. So if we look at something like Mewtwo and Mew Tag Team GX, it's got the ability to let you copy the attacks of any GX on your field or in your discard pile, and it specifically says you still need the necessary energy to use each attack. It always says that when you need the necessary energy. This doesn't, so you don't. So if you're facing down a Reshiram and Charizard, you get to copy their attack and do 230 damage, even though they need 4 energy to do it. You only need 3. You can copy Torkoal V's attack to get rid of a couple energy on your opponent's active Pokemon, even though you've only got 3 energy on there, which is funny. They might not have enough energy to pay that attack. They've only got 3 energy. They've probably used a Welder and attachment for the turn. Then you do the same thing, and you do get to use the attack and then get rid of their energy so they can't use it next turn. That's kind of funny to me. You don't need the requisite energy. That's awesome. Yes, you can copy GX attacks. When you can't copy GX attacks, we are specifically told that you can't. So if we have a look at Mimikyu, for instance, it lets you copy an attack your opponent used the previous turn, but it specifically says on the card that isn't a GX attack, because it doesn't say you can't copy a GX attack. You can copy a GX attack. And this brings us to the ruling that Antoine went and had a little bit of an ask about. And the ruling was all about GX attacks and the extra attack cost. So if we look at something like Arceus and Dialga and Palkia, it's got one of the very, very best GX attacks we've seen. You get to do an extra 30 damage for the remainder of the game if you've got a metal energy on. If you've also got a water energy on, then you get to take an extra prize card every time you KO a Pokemon for the rest of the game. Yeah, that's pretty good. So what energy does Ninetales need to use that? The ruling is simple. If you've got Fire Double Colorless, you copy the attack. The attack says for the rest of the game, your Pokemon's attacks do 30 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon. So you now do an extra 30 damage. If this Pokemon has at least one extra water energy attached, you take an extra prize for every KO. If you don't have an extra water energy attached, you don't get to take the extra prizes. If you want to use Arceus and Dialga and Palkia's GX attack while taking extra prizes, you need 1 fire, 2 colorless, 1 water. Simple. I know it's actually more expensive than ADP, but don't forget you have got Welder, so that kind of evens it out a little bit. You don't need the metal, because the metal is in the regular cost and you're paying that with a Fire Double Colorless. You do need the water, because you copy the attack, and the attack says do an extra 30 damage. But you only get the extra prizes if you've got water. That works for ADP and for Ninetales. But this is really cool. It means that if you're worried about an ADP deck outpacing you because they're taking extra prizes and you're not, you can copy their GX attack. You do need the water, so the question you've really got to ask yourself is it worth it? Simple. You can still copy and do the extra damage, but if you want to get the extra prizes, you do have to take a water energy into your deck and ask yourself if it's worth it. And we've seen this on Mimikyu. I was using this with Zoroark back when black and white base set was all the rage. These attacks are good. These attacks let you use your opponent's Pokemon against them. And it's Fire Double Colorless, which means Welder and attachment for the turn. It's a really easy to pay attack. And anytime your opponent is using a really high cost attack, you can then use this to copy that attack for less energy. And again, having Welder makes such a phenomenal difference here because you can just copy it right away. Make no mistake about it, this is quite possibly going to go into a huge amount, if not all, fire decks for the very simple reason it gives you an out against so many weird things. Weird Pokemon that you didn't see coming, and you can just copy and knock them out. And that's kind of hilarious. Now, as for the second attack here, 1 fire, 3 colorless energy, 180 damage, discard an energy attached to this Pokemon. It's fine. It's not particularly amazing. Honestly, if I want to hit 180 damage on a fire Pokemon V, I'm using Torkoal. And I'm making sure I use Oranguru to try and make sure that I've got a fire card on top of my deck, a fire energy. That way I do 180 damage. And I'm only paying 3 energy rather than 4. And again, in fire decks, there is a gigantic difference between a 3 and a 4 energy attack. Because a 3 energy attack is a Welder and attachment for turn. A 4 energy attack isn't really payable in 1 turn, usually. So I'm doing the same amount of damage, but it's a 3 energy, not 4. And I don't have to discard 1. And I've got an extra 10 HP. The second attack isn't what excites me about Ninetales. I'd rather just use Torkoal. But the first attack I adore, and then you're in a case of, well, if I'm using the first attack anyway, I'm not going to play Torkoal. I might as well just add the energy for the second attack. I don't know if Ninetales is going to be the focus of a deck. I don't know if it's good enough to be the focus of a deck. But in the same way Victini V is a phenomenal tech in a bunch of fire decks, in case your opponent piles a bunch of energy on their active, Ninetales is a phenomenal tech in a bunch of fire decks for if your opponent has a big Pokemon in the active with a really good attack. So there we go. I'm giving it 4 Wassies. I love this. It's probably only a tech, and the second attack is overpriced for what it is. But the first attack opens up so many options in so many matchups, you've got to get a little bit excited about it. So there you go, ladies and gentlemen. That's what I think. That's how excited I am. But I'd like to know what you think, and I'd like to know how excited you are. So let me know in the comment section. Go nuts. Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWassie, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/TheWassie. patreon.com/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that good stuff, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And please do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassiePlays, where you can find out about a whole bunch of games that don't have Pokemon in, but are awesome and we love them. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.